What up? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And look at you. You done stumbled upon little OTB Saints, where we bring you all the latest black and gold coverage.
Who are the Saints going to draft? Who's going to be their quarterback? What does the salary cap look like? All that information and more.
Hope you enjoy it. Like, subscribe. Talking a little New Orleans Saints coaching search as it continues to develop, and we've got a couple of juicy nuggets here. First off, in a move that you don't see too often, but one that my initial reaction to was, I appreciate this. Cliff Kingsbury saying he's holding off on any coaching interviews until his playoff run is over. And he has more on his plate with the Detroit Lions coming up, and he doesn't need to be worried about doing interviews. And I love this. I wish more guys would do this. Now, I do have to recognize, Jake, that I think this is probably a bit of a function that, or a result of the fact that he's already been a head coach. So this is not, like if you're a Joe Brady, Aaron Glenn, whatever, this is your first opportunity, right? You may feel a lot of pressure to be like, okay, they say jump, I kind of have to say how high here because I'm finally getting a crack at this thing. Cliff does have a kind of been there, done that. Maybe that gives him a little more confidence to hold off here. But can you imagine if you were one of these coaches, and already coaches are notorious for being 24/7 grinders, just in game planning, you're preparing for the most important game of your life. Can you imagine also preparing for the most important interview of your life? The one that's trying to get you the job that you've trained for your entire adult career? I mean, it's crazy that we force him to do both of these things at the same time. So I really appreciate Kingsbury saying, nope, you know what? I'm going to wait. And I got a lot. We're going to focus on getting Jaden ready for the Lions, and then we'll see what happens. And then whenever it's over, then we can talk.
Yeah, I don't really understand, I guess, why there would be a rush to hire a coach in the NFL process, because I totally get it in college. Transfer portal window is like open around that time. You got to finish your recruiting class. You're already behind by the time you get a new job, no matter when you're hired because of the calendar. But for the NFL, there's nothing that you would miss.
True.
Your draft prep is still going to continue, right? If you get it done before, say, the Senior Bowl, which is coming up, I know coming up here in a couple of weeks, but still, like, you still have some time.
Yeah.
The draft's April 25th or something around that time. And so you still have time there. Free agency doesn't begin until March. And so the calendar allows you to kind of string it out a little bit more. Make sure you get the right guy because the process is going to be a little bit different. So, maybe if you have a coach that's coaching in the Super Bowl and you're missing the Senior Bowl, maybe I understand that a little bit because that is a big week. But outside of that, like if you're the New Orleans Saints, like you can wait a little bit. Like you have still 10 days or so really before, if you feel like you want your entire staff. Now, teams have gone into the Senior Bowl without a head coach before. They've sent their scouts and they've sent their GM and they've sent personnel. It has happened before.
You still have to do. You still do that for sure, right? Especially if you have a GM that's going to be there. Now, the head coach can come in and change things up if the GM allows him to, but
the head coach, and
it's not like you're like, oh, guess we got to skip it.
Yeah.
Guys. And nobody gets to work today.
You know how it is. Like in the NFL, like the head coach is, he's going to have a say in the draft, but it's those scouts. Those scouts, the area scouts and the lead scouts get paid a pretty good amount of money to have their profile, and the GM turns to them oftentimes. Like very rarely do you see the head coach that's making the draft choice. Like that's why like the Sean McVay Puka Nacua video is so popular because like he stood on the table for that draft choice.
Yeah.
Like that one is actually, the outlier. It's not the norm.
Yeah. You got something that we could probably do a really deep dive on that is pretty fascinating is the relationship between head coach, GM, and owner, and who has power over which, and it can be fluid and different in different situations. Obviously, like if you're in New Orleans, you are drafting whatever Mickey Loomis tells you to draft. Now, in the past, though, I do know that the Sean Payton trust was there to where Sean could make those decisions, even to the point of trading up and getting rid of a pick to get Tommy Stevens out of some sort of weird pissing match with the Carolina Panthers.
I know.
But So again, the overall point of this is that timeline's fine. Nobody needs to rush. That's okay. Let Cliff Kingsbury coach the biggest game of his career up to this point as an OC and see if he can potentially make an NFC championship. Man, you chasing rings. And that's what you do this all for. You got a chance. You're in the final 8? Is that what we're looking at here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, 24 other teams already sent home, and there's going to be 4 more after this weekend. The coaching search can wait. For what it's worth, it is still believed that Joe Brady, Kellen Moore, and Darren Rizzi will probably be interviewed at some point this week.
I do always find it funny that Rizzi gets an interview, and I'm not saying he shouldn't get an interview, but it is funny. Like he's been your head coach for a couple months now.
Well, that's why it has the feeling of being maybe not performative.
Throwing him a bone?
That may be a bit performative. A vestigial. Maybe that works.
Sure.
A vestigial organ is like something that has no use anymore, that you've evolved out of, right? I don't know. But the point is, if you're an interim guy and you don't get the job immediately after, you're not going to win the interview process. A lot of people would have to tell the New Orleans Saints no or go elsewhere for that to end up happening. Let's then go ahead and wrap up some of the other Saints coaching news nuggets, because if you remember yesterday, a lot of reports coming out that Aaron Glenn saying that the Jets are his number one choice, kind of with a bullet, right? Being pretty emphatic, the New York Post was, that if offered the Jets job, he'd take it immediately, that he'd want it over the New Orleans Saints, over anybody else. For what it's worth, Nick Underhill, of New Orleans Football, refuted this. He said he talked to close sources close to the situation, and that they did not just deny this, but, quote, vehemently denied it. So they were emphatic in their denial, saying that, no, that's BS. And who knows? I'm just giving you I don't want to say facts, because who knows what's true or not. I'm giving you the elements of the story that are coming to light as they come to light. So maybe Aaron Glenn really does prefer the Jets. Maybe it's more internally. Maybe the gap is closer than we think. Maybe he wants to go wherever he'll get a head coaching job offered to him. Maybe for his New Orleans, I just know that there are conflicting reports about his number one with a bullet desire for to be the New York Jets head coach. Here's something interesting as well, Jay.
And I do think you need somebody, T, on that point, that really wants to be here.
Yeah,
because it ain't gonna be easy.
No,
you know what I'm saying? Like, you got to get somebody that's like fully bought in to what it's going to be. And, maybe that is someone who has been here before, has an affinity for the franchise. Mike McCarthy being here, 4 seasons as the offensive coordinator, Joe Brady being here, and obviously starting in New Orleans and then coming to LSU, and maybe he's got, a love for the area or something like it's going to take, in my opinion, something like that. I don't think, as much as I want Aaron Glenn to be here, I just don't know if you want somebody that would want to be somewhere else more.
I agree. Now, it also does work, though, if you have someone who just, like, you think about a Sean Payton, right? Sean Payton was just desperate to prove that he could be a great head coach. Just absolutely desperate to show the world that. And I do get that feeling from Aaron Glenn. And I like the fact that he was such a key part of the ultimate turnaround in Detroit when you're talking about creating a turnaround here.
Yeah.
Now, like I said, pros and cons. The Jets have better pieces. He did play for the Jets, so he's very aware with the setting. But maybe that's a wash since he coached here so long. I think a con for New York would be the ownership, very insane, very unstable. Whereas, even if you don't love Mickey Loomis, he's not going anywhere. You will get a lot of rope here in New Orleans that New York will most likely not be willing to give. So we'll see what ends up happening. One other interesting note on Mike McCarthy, still nothing officially scheduled, which is a bit surprising, just given the timeline of how these things work out. As for what it's worth, Underhill saying that he thought that at the beginning of this process that McCarthy was the candidate. He has now downgraded that to a candidate.
Right.
So maybe not the kind of favorite in the doghouse like many people were whispering behind the scenes. And then Clint Kubiak is getting a second interview for OC in Seattle. So normally second interview means you're getting hired. So it's
He did have one with Cleveland, correct?
I
and
believe
I know Tommy
so.
Reese got that job.
Oh yeah, that's right. Tommy Reese.
He got
did.
elevated from tight ends coach to offensive coordinator.
Yeah, good for Tommy Reese, man. I mean, you get jumped up immediately at Notre Dame, then Alabama. Alabama kind of goes awry, but then you're still so impressive that you go from, what was he last year, quarterback or analyst coach?
I thought it was tight ends in Cleveland.
Ooh, Tommy, yeah, he was tight ends.
Even
'cause
wilder.
Remember,
So then you go from tight ends to an NFL OC. Like, Reese must have the goods. You can see maybe now why Kelly was valued him so much.
well, there was talks that people were like, hey, could Kelly bring him back here as a tight ends coach? But was it yesterday they elevated him? Day before?
Yesterday,
something
2
like
days ago? Yeah, something like that.
So Tom Reese there, but Clint Kubiak getting the second interview, he's probably going to be the OC in Seattle. And it just sucks because I really wonder what could have been. I do feel like Clint got a lot of production out of very little. I mean, squeezed blood from the stones this year, and they couldn't even get the luck of staying somewhat healthy. So I'll be watching his career with great interest. But whatever. It's not like it is what it is. When you fire the head coach, you have to gird your loins for these sort of stories to happen because the staff's going to be completely remade top to bottom anyway. Wow, just amazing black and gold takes right there, Jake.
I don't think I've ever heard any takes that are better than the two guys that just gave you that take.
And you can keep getting them by going ahead and liking, subscribing, ringing the bell to get notifications when we post. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next OTB Saints.